sound is not very good. So I'm going to say it and nobody else, you guys can say it under your breath, but if we all say it at the same time, it just does not work well. So please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the board did meet in closed session this evening, and I will have Trustee Aguila report out the closed session items.
Maria, you're muted.
Okay, good evening. On Tuesday, April 21st, 2020, in closed session, the Novato Unified School District Board of Trustees took action to issue a notice of release to 2 temporary teachers pursuant to Education Code Section 44954, effective at the end of the 2019-2020 school year, and directed the superintendent or designee to send out appropriate legal notice. And it was 7 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absence, and 0 abstain. Okay. The second item that we discussed, President Butler recused herself due to proximity of her home. And we discussed in closed session pursuant to California Education Code 54956.8, conference with property negotiator, real property negotiations, price and term, Novato USD, NBCC, and parcel 1A, parcel 1B, parcel 2, C Street in Novato, California, 94949. Negotiator Yancey Hawkins, Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, and we gave direction. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to approval of our agenda this evening, it stands as is. So I need a motion for the approval of our agenda.
I'll move tonight's agenda.
Okay, so first by Trustee Cooper, a second by Trustee Mack. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand as well.
Aye.
Thank you. 6-0, 1 absent. And that is Trustee Millerick was unable to make it this evening due to a work commitment. Moving on to public comment and on our consent agenda, I did not receive any items or blue cards, I guess you could say, comments on the consent item. Does a trustee want to pull any item on consent? Trustee Gaffney?
I'm going to pull 14H. Just the notification of the exemption that we have for the construction.
Okay. And I am pulling item I, 14I, and we'll take that up as soon as we move on the consent items, because I'm just recusing myself from that item. Any other items besides H and I?
No.
Seeing none, do we want to move? Can we move on our consent agenda?
I'll move adoption of the consent agenda without items H or I.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Nell. Need a second? Okay, second by Trustee Gasson. All those in favor approving the consent agenda excluding I and H. Okay, that's 6-0. 1 absent. Let's just take up my item and then Trustee Gasson will move your item at the end of discussion action. Mine is, like I said, very, I is because I'm recusing myself. So I will, if anybody would like to move.
So I would move approval of item I on the tonight's consent agenda.
I second.
Whoever.
Okay, so I have a first by Trustee Cooper, a second by Trustee Aguila. This is 14I. This is a change order number 6 and number 7 to the grounds maintenance and operations building for GMH Builders, building contract at 971 C Street. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5 and 1 recusal and 1 absent. 5 yeses, 1 recusal, 1 absent. All right. Moving on to our announcements this evening, and I'm so glad we have a student board member here. Hi, Elizabeth. So we'll go around and do our announcements just like we're sitting at the board table. So I'll start with Elizabeth.
All right. Hope everybody's doing well. It's been an interesting couple of weeks to report on, but you know, it's been really reassuring to see our teachers and staff do the absolute best they can in these unparalleled times, because they've gone above and beyond, and they've been incredibly accommodating in the last few weeks. From a student standpoint, I'd say the transition has been harder than expected, but the more we communicate, the less we feel alone. So Zoom, in doing so, has been very helpful. We also stand in solidarity to support our seniors as always. A positive thing that happened recently was that Samarin's leadership and staff actually have been up to display recognition for the achievements of the seniors by posting posters on the lawns of every single senior. And so 23 teachers and staff got up really early in the morning and they drove around and they surprised seniors with these posters. I took a picture of one. It says, "We love our 2020 seniors." It was really sweet. It just makes me think, you know, another reason why I love being in this community. So that's all I have to report today.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. We need some good news. So that's nice to hear that. Thank you. Trustee Nell.
I have no announcements or comments right now.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Gasson?
I actually have a couple. The first is I did a test run for my Gab with Gasson to see how that would go on Zoom, and it actually went really well. I was fortunate I knew everybody in attendance, and I hadn't navigated a Zoom meeting on my own, so I think it went really well. There was some discussion about remote learning, which was really helpful, getting some perspective. I had parents on there, primarily a staff person and a teacher, so it was interesting to hear their thoughts and just kind of talk through what we're all going through. There was a little bit of information about parcel tax and funding that we discussed, so those were all helpful pieces of information for myself, and I think the people that attended felt that it was worth their time. I'm gonna look at doing another one in a few weeks. I also attended the school funding update, which was hosted by MCOE. I thought it was really informative and helpful. A little bit scary, but it was good timing in terms of our meeting tonight, I thought. And I also did try to attend, as it sounds like a couple of you did, the County of Marin community conversation, which didn't get off really good. So I'm hopeful to go back and review what that session was about. I also wanted to acknowledge Chris, and I felt like I was losing sense of time, but I think it was after our last board meeting, the Facebook Live that you held, I thought was good and very helpful. I appreciated your doing that. I also just wanted to say my girls are both still plugging along with remote learning. I'm learning a lot, but it's been really great to have those teachers and staff supporting my kids and us. And finally, we had a little mishap with our Chromebook. So I just wanted to put a shout out to the IT team. Within like 20 minutes, they sent me back a note and said I could have another one to borrow to trade out for the rest of the year for my daughter. So sadly, she didn't get let off of her schoolwork for very long because the IT team was so quick in turning that around. But I appreciated that. And I think that is it for me.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Mack.
I'll be quick. Like Diane, I attended the FICMAT presentation yesterday, and needs to say it was a strong primer for tonight's topic. And we have a lot of work to do on the finance side. It's definitely going to be a little different than it has been in the past decade. And as well, I tried to attend the health officer thing last night. It didn't work out. Technology is an issue. I'm glad to see that we're hanging in there. So thank you to the technology staff for making this work. It's not an easy feat, and really appreciate it. And also, I do want to do a shout out to Chris. I know you've been taking a lot of work home and everywhere you can, and there's a lot going on. Thank you for your leadership.
Trustee Cooper?
Yes, I agree with all the comments made about Chris. I think we're in very, very good hands, capable hands. Thank you. I attended also the school funding update, and the new item to report, we had a Golden Bell meeting today, and we've decided that we're not going to hold the Golden Bell event. I'm sure that's no surprise to anybody here, but we will be doing some kind of virtual Golden Bell event, and it'll be televised on the same day, so May 21st. So make that adjustment to your calendar, and to be continued.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Cooper. Trustee Aguila?
Yes, it was the same thing with Trustee Cooper. I'm just excited that we are still going to be able to honor our community that deserve to be honored, the Teachers of the Year, the Trustee of the Year, and so it's just thanks to the creativity of this committee, you know, that they just didn't want to let a year go by without doing this. And so I'm very grateful for them. And we're still going to have it on the same day, like you said, the 21st. So it's just a month away from today, actually. And more details to come. And the other thing I wanted to say is just thank you to all the teachers and the principals and the staff for everything that they're doing. They're doing their best. I'm getting a lot of feedback from, you know, when I go walking and I talk to students and parents, and I was just getting a lot of great feedback, and everybody's being so supportive. And just that, I think that's the most important thing, is the attitude that that people have. And so I'm grateful for that. That's it.
Thank you. I don't have too much to add to that. I did attend the school funding update at MCOE yesterday. We had great representation from Novato. I know Trustee Millerick was there on that call as well, or on that Zoom as well. So we were all listening to what potentially could happen in regards to our budget and the scenarios we have to consider. So it was very informative for me. It was deja vu, though, for me as well. I don't know about other trustees, of what we had to do in the past in 08, 09, and some of the things the state does to push money out and things like that. So there were some comments that were made that we've experienced before in the past. I just want to, Trustee Nell didn't mention this, but he's the newest member of the County Committee on School District Organization. He joins me in representing District 5 on that committee, and he was sworn in last week because one of the members who was representing District 5 had to step down because they had moved out of the county. So him and I will be serving on that committee together. So thank you for doing that, Trustee Nell. And just a shout out to our staff, like Trustee Aguila said, we really appreciate all the work that everybody's doing. Everybody's showing up remotely, and some are showing up physically to actually work through our district and keep us moving forward and getting things taken care of. And we truly appreciate that. I know FANS is doing more meals than ever before. And we have several locations now where kids can go and get a meal, which is truly important. So thank you to FANS for continuing to roll that out, and Cody for his leadership in that department. So Superintendent Koska, do you have any comments? Can't hear you.
Sorry, that was the last thing I said. I have a lot of comments, but I'm muted and you can't hear any of them right now.
We're doing our best.
That's going to be the catchword of the pandemic is, hey, you're muted. I hear it 20 times a day, not always to me, but sometimes. So I want to start with appreciations, like all of you. You know, we talked about the number of meals being served. Right now, we're serving 2,400 meals a day. It started with us working at 2 sites. It expanded to 4 sites. Now we have a couple of our bus drivers that are kicking in to help us to transport those meals to other sites, and that number just keeps going up. And the reality is if we were serving meals that people didn't want to eat, they wouldn't keep coming to pick it up, even if it's free. And so this is a testament not only that there's a community need that we're filling, but it's also a testament that we're doing it well. and people are appreciating. And I hope that one of the big picture impacts of this is that people see that Nevada Unified School District puts out a pretty good meal. And so showing up and eating at school could be a good thing for us moving forward. I hope that that's a positive outcome. Again, that doesn't happen without the great work of our staff and the great leadership of folks in our district office, including Cody and Yancey overseeing that department, and then Melissa Remy helping out with the transportation. We've got great work going on in our digital classrooms. That doesn't happen without a ton of commitment from our teachers who are shifting on the fly to how they make their magic happen. Some of whom do this very comfortably, and some for whom this is a really difficult transition, and they're diving in anyways because they know that it's the right thing to do for kids. And I want to say that doesn't happen without the great support of our assistant principals and our principals helping them through that. And then our fantastic education services team, all of whom are working really hard to make sure this magic keeps happening. We didn't miss a beat. There are some school districts for whom this is their first week of digital instruction. And for us, it's kind of feeling like certainly not status quo. It'll never feel like status quo, but like maybe we're kind of catching our groove. I want to talk a little bit about grades because I think we'd be remiss if we didn't. This was the difficult decision of last week as a result of lots of research going into that. We've made a decision that I believe positively impacts the vast majority of our district. I've heard from a lot of folks who said that it negatively impacts them. We're reviewing that. I feel like we've made a decision. I feel like we'll stand by the decision, but I do continue to hear concerns from folks, and we're looking into that. We've reached out to additional admissions officers from our UCs and our CSUs, and we're getting feedback from them. That even though the decision's made, we're continuing to research to make sure that the right decision was made. And we're working on a frequently asked questions page, which we have a draft of right now. There's a few questions that we need to continue to search out answers for, and by this week that'll be out, and I think that'll be a big resource for our community. Finally, I want to just touch on graduations and promotions. The reality is we have no idea what that's going to look like, right? We hoped that it would be a June graduation. That's looking less and less likely. But if they'll allow us to do it, we will. I just want to be honest; it looks very unlikely. So we're hoping for an August graduation for the high schools. That would be the Friday. I don't recall the times for the two different high schools, but it would be the graduations would be on Friday of the week of August 3rd. With the middle schools and elementary schools earlier in the week. Again, a more formal announcement of that with dates and times to come. We are continuing to research in the event that we feel like that's not going to be a possibility. If we don't feel like we're going to be able to get together in August, we think, and by our early commitment to doing this in August, we show that this is really important to us. And so if we need to look at virtual options, we're doing all sorts of research, seeing what colleges across the country are doing and other high schools across the country are doing. And we're not going to get caught flat-footed. We want to have something that we do to honor our seniors and those being promoted in 5th and 8th grade. So we'll continue to work on that. I know that's a lot. That's more than I usually say at the beginning of a meeting, but I hope it's helpful.
Thank you. All right, moving on to non-agenda public comment. We do have a fair amount of comment to report out, and what we're going to do is either Ellen and Chris are going to take the lead on those to read them. And just to remind the board members, you'll receive every public comment we received. You'll receive that via email after this board meeting. Ellen will be sending those all to us. Just to remind the public, we got all the emails we received, as long as they were before 5 o'clock, that's our deadline. They are in the pile to be read, and we do want to adhere to the 3 minutes. So we're going to try to stick with our timing of 3 minutes on reading the item, and we don't defer time to other people, to other public comment, so it has to be within the 3 minutes, and it kind of keeps things moving along. And like I said, trustees will be receiving the full comments at the end. of our board meeting. So when you're ready to go, I will turn it over to Superintendent Casca or Ellen. I'm not sure how you guys are going to roll that out.
So I want to chime in and then Ellen will read the first one. I'm getting an echo all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Did you change something? Okay.
That's better. There you go.
Ellen or I has to be muted at all times. So Ellen is going to read the first one. Here's what we're going to do, the best commitment that we can make. We're going to try to read these in an understandable pace. It's not too fast. It's not too slow. We're going to try to take the tone out of the, as much tone as we can out of the article, because, you know, we don't know exactly how the reader wants us to feel as we're reading this. So we're just going to do our best to read it and not be emotional positively or negatively. So just know that's our strategy that we're going to try to use. Okay. So Ellen will do the first one.
Okay. The first one is from Michelle Lefevre Burnt. I apologize if I got that wrong. Science teacher, biotech pathway teacher, NFT site representative at San Marin High School. Dear Novato Unified School Board trustees, in the NUSD certificated employee pay schedule range 2 usually indicates a teacher who has completed a recognized and accredited credential program and earned 30 units of post-baccalaureate credit in the process. Because of the state in which Jane Flynn received her credential, where she earned her teaching credential as part of her baccalaureate program, she earned only 15 additional equivalent post-baccalaureate credits. So she was placed in range 1, less than 30 PB credits, rather than range 2, even though she has the valid credential equivalent of 30 units. While technically the contract places Jane in range 1, doing so does not honor her work and credential earned, nor the importance of Jane to the school community at San Marin. San Marin has struggled for the past 5 years to attract and retain high-quality math teachers, and there is language in the contract that allows for compensation based on years of experience in a subject area of high need, which for us has been math. Jane is an excellent teacher by all accounts, students, parents, colleagues, and administrators, but I fear it is financially and more importantly, morally discouraging to Jane to not be compensated for her education and experience to the point that she may seek a position elsewhere. It would be a pity for San Marin to lose such a valuable asset to our school community because of a technicality, especially when there is language in the contract that could allow for a memorandum of understanding. Additionally, the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources has indicated that in future negotiations, we could look at collapsing the first 2 ranges into one, similar to what other districts in the county have done. I respectfully ask that you consider an MOU that would place Jane in range 2 of the salary schedule so that she can benefit from her earned credential and experience in terms of compensation. Thank you for considering this request.
Okay, I will read the next non-agenda public comment. And this is from Nick Williams. And it goes like this. To whom it may concern, I was recently informed by my colleague, Kim Lobbs, that San Marin math teacher Jane Flynn is not being given credit for her 5 previous years of teaching experience on the salary schedule. While we may technically be able to justify this, shortchanging a great math teacher is a bad decision and one we can and should easily remedy. There are 2 primary reasons to honor Jane Flynn's previous teaching experience and to compensate her as such by placing her on step 6 of the salary schedule. Number 1, it's the right thing to do. Giving credit for a teacher's previous experience is the intent of our salary schedule system, and while it may not have been officially promised, it was certainly indicated to Ms. Flynn that her previous experience would be reflected in her salary placement during the hiring process. 2, strategically, it is good for our students and district. Jane Flynn is an excellent math teacher. We've had an extraordinarily difficult time finding and hiring good math teachers, consistently needing to hire 2 per year, often with an unfilled position. I've represented NUSD at weekend university recruiting hiring fairs as a volunteer teacher representative for at least 3 of the past 5 years. Every year we were looking for math teachers. Every year we ended up recruiting none. Jane is not qualified. She's really good. Kids love her, parents love her, our staff loves her, and her parents learn a ton. Our students learn a ton. If she were to leave because we're undercompensating her, we will not be able to replace her. Additionally, finding ways to not give good teachers credit for their previous work will erode trust our staff has in our human resources decision-making process. This is an easy one to make right. Thank you for giving Jen Flynn appropriate credit on the salary schedule for her previous teaching experience. She's the exact type of teacher we need to keep in Novato. Thank you.
Keeping 6 feet apart here, so my arm's not long enough. This next one is from Jeffrey Moore, French and avid instructor, World Languages Department Chair, former Novato Federation of Teachers site representative from San Marin High School. Dear esteemed members of the Novato Unified School District Board, please find the attached message with regards to Ms. Jane Flynn, who has been a respected, admired, and valuable new addition to San Marin High School's math department, and therefore valuable to San Marin High School and Novato Unified School District in general. During my 5 years as NFT site representative at San Marin, I would like to have said that I spent several hours working with extenuating circumstances that have impeded new math teachers from working successfully at San Marin. Unfortunately, if those several hours had to be tabulated, they would amount to more than several days. Multiple incongruities over those 5 years resulted in much less than optimal classroom conditions for the math students, for their parents, for the teachers themselves, for school administration, and for the teachers who have had to fill in these ever-present, ever-persistent, and proverbial gaps. However, Jane Flynn, during her first year in our district, has not contributed to this curve of incongruous and erratic performance that has affected many past math teachers at San Marin. In fact, she has helped flatten this curve. Thankfully, Jane came to us with 5 years of prior teaching experience, 5 years that have not only helped her in teaching her current students, but those years have also helped our community in addressing some of our institutional inconsistencies. Throughout this entire school year, Jane has exuded not only competence of a quantitative nature via various numerical evaluative tools, but also excellence of a qualitative nature through student, parental, collegial, and administrative satisfaction. As the board considers attributing the 5 years of experience and salary that Jane should be accorded, is the impediment toward this allocation a quantitative or qualitative one? Should an initial accounting incongruity at the time of her hiring result in a qualitative loss to our students, parents, and staff if she were to take a position elsewhere? My hope is that the contingency of your review of her salary may benefit her quantitatively so that she can continue to benefit all of us qualitatively. Thank you. Yeah.
There's a lot of qualitatives and quantitatives. Okay. Susan B. Taggard regarding the teacher retention of Jane Flynn. Honorable members of the Board of Trustees, School Board Trustees. As a 17-year math teacher at San Marin High School, I know that at the opening of the school year, without fail, we will be short anywhere between 1 to 3 math teachers. It seems that we have difficulty fulfilling these vacancies. As an unintended consequence of this shortage of math teachers is the fact that many of these teachers leave after several years for better paying jobs in neighboring communities of Marin County. We also put our students in great peril. When we do get a teacher who's in it for the long run at San Marin, it is critical for NUSD to value that asset. An example of this situation is Jane Flynn, an outstanding math teacher at San Marin. She brings 5 years of teaching experience, a degree in math, and a clear credential to the position. However, due to our salary schedule, she is not compensated for her experience and expertise. This does not appear to be equitable. Jane is one of the best new math hires we have had in years. She has done she has done very effective things to keep her classes engaged through normal times as well as the currently sheltered in place environment, but she should not be held hostage to a payroll scale that apparently precludes her receiving credit for her experience in math and education practices. Prior to her hiring, the district had adequate time to verify her career achievements. Upon her hiring, she was quoted a salary range that included compensation for her years of experience. It appeared that all was in order. However, Jane is not being compensated for her years of experience, and we would ask the boards to redress this oversight. Board response to this issue has been carefully crafted to the effect that there was no promise of specific salary level and that final determination was contingent upon review. This resulted in Jane being placed in Tier 1, which has no steps reflecting experience. Jane accepted NUSD's offer based on salary and working at San Marin. This kind of issue has the potential to limit our already difficult recruitment and retention of math teachers, but if resolved in Jane's favor, this becomes a positive in recruiting tool. I sincerely hope that this salary misunderstanding is resolved in Jane's favor. Thank you for your time and interest in this matter. Respectfully submitted.
Back. This is from Robert Watson. Dear members of the board and district administration, my name is Rob Watson, and for the last 16 years, I have been a history teacher at San Marin High School. I'm writing tonight in support of one of our new math teachers, Jane Flynn. Raising student achievement in math is a priority across the district, yet we have at times struggled to hire quality math teachers or keep the ones we do hire. With Jane, we hit the jackpot. She is a great math teacher with prior experience, respected by students, liked by parents, and adored by colleagues. Apparently, when we hired Jane, we also got a bargain. She comes to us without the post-grad units that would reward her experience, having been educated out of state, where credentialing is handled differently. When the district reaches out for millions from the community, every time we cite the desire to attract and retain highly qualified staff. Ms. Flynn is the epitome of the highly qualified staff we mentioned. This is an opportunity to prove that plea is not just lip service. Jane chose us despite more lucrative opportunities with a Southern Marin district that shall not be named, but with the understanding that her years of experience would be compensated. It was only after beginning the school year that she found out that this was not the case. We may be able to save some money, and I admit the contract language may seem clear on this, but I assure you we cannot afford to lose Ms. Flynn. As a teacher in this district, we are often asked to figure it out and do whatever it takes. I implore you to do the same, to do right by Ms. Flynn, and to build goodwill with the staff. But ultimately, because it is in the best interest of the students of San Marin and the Nevada Unified School District. Jane is a bargain at any price. Thank you.
Okay, from Kim Lobbs, same topic, retaining quality teachers, compensation for Jane Flynn to include her years of experience. Dear NUSD Board of Trustees, I am speaking to you today on behalf of Jane Flynn, an exceptional math teacher at San Marin High School. This is her first year at NUSD, coming to us with 5 years of previous teaching experience. It is an unusual situation for someone to have their bachelor's degree in math and clear credential and 5 years of teaching experience without having a BA plus 30 classification. And yet that is exactly the case for Jane Flynn. Due to our salary schedule, she is not being compensated for her years of experience, and this does not seem fair or reasonable. I'm hoping that you will find a way through an MOU or some other means to give her the compensation that she deserves. Jane is the best new math teacher we have had in years. She has done great things in the classroom with her students prior to our current shelter-in-place orders, reaching out to and connecting with EL students, finding resources to engage all diverse learners in her classes, and offering enriching activities to enlighten all students. Jane strengthens our department with projects, activities, and getting other teachers excited about the work, especially now with remote teaching. She is finding creative activities to do with her students remotely, coming up with games and investigations to encourage and engage during this difficult time, and freely shares all with the department. Jane is professional, passionate, highly qualified, determined, collaborative, well-educated in both her outstanding knowledge of mathematics and of educational practices and philosophies, and she is experienced. She was told the salary range when hired that included her years of experience. The district had ample time to check and find any discrepancies prior to signing her. She presented all the paperwork, transcripts, and work experience. She came to us with several years of experience, and yet she is not being compensated for this. We need you to fight for her, to see how unfair this is, and that due to bad faith could cause us to lose not only this wonderful teacher, but tarnish our ability to hire other exceptional teachers in the future, as our image in the teaching community will deteriorate. Response to this issue has been carefully worded, that there was no promise of salary, that it was all contingent upon review. The result is that Jane's units put her at tier 1, which doesn't have any steps for experience. Jane had options at signing, but the combo of wanting to work at San Marin and the salary were her deciding factors. Had the salary been stated tier 1, step 1, she might not have taken the offer and gone with a more lucrative position elsewhere. Jane is receiving more than $10,000 less per year than she was expecting from NUSD, and $27,000 less per year than had she taken a position with the TAM district, where they don't differentiate between a BA and BA plus 30. My hope is that a fair and equitable decision giving her the salary that she deserves can be made by the school board respectfully. Same topic.
This is from Sarah Davis, San Marin High School math teacher. Dear NUSD School Board Trustees, hello, my name is Sarah Davis. I'm a math teacher at San Marin, and this is my 6th year teaching here. Over the past 6 years, I've witnessed firsthand the coming and going of at least 10 math teachers. That is almost 2 a year. You do not want to add Jane Flynn to this list. Miss Flynn and I shared a room this year, and I watched her teach every single day. She is remarkable with the students. She has an incredible way of relating to each student, getting on their level, making them feel accepted, welcomed, and cared about, and of course, teaching them math. Every day I watched Miss Flynn get to school at least 2 hours early and plan creative lessons that engaged all of her students. She would take the learning targets and weave them into fun and exciting activities. Oftentimes, the students were up out of their seats, moving around and interacting with the concepts. Miss Flynn has a spark and passion for teaching that she effortlessly passes on to her students. Her passion has continued on during this distance learning time. I have checked in with previous students to see how the transition to distance learning has been, and on multiple accounts, the students have said that Miss Flynn's Zoom meeting is their favorite one. It is hard to have students stay connected and engaged during these times, yet she is doing it. Miss Flynn is also an outstanding addition to our math department. She has provided countless great ideas and has been a great collaborator. She has a great knowledge of the standards and rubric grading, not to mention she is fully credentialed, meaning she can teach math, she can teach any math class offered at San Marin. She is not limited to just teaching Algebra 1 and geometry. That passion I spoke of earlier not only rubs off on the students, but it rubs off onto the other teachers in the department. Ms. Flynn inspires us to create richer lessons and activities. She pushes us to take the extra time to invest in lesson planning, reminding us to think of every one of our students. She encourages us to keep building our relationships with our students in the current situation. She is a role model in the classroom and during distance learning. As I mentioned before, Ms. Flynn is truly an amazing teacher and an asset to San Marin High School. It would be an absolute shame to lose this amazing teacher because she is not paid for her experience. She earned her bachelor's degree and teaching credential altogether and therefore did not receive the 30 units needed to move over into the next column on the NUSD salary schedule. However, she comes to San Marin with 5 years teaching experience and 4 years trained in SIOP. The right thing to do is pay her for her experience and certificates, especially when she was led to believe that she would be paid that higher amount. School board trustees, please fix this wrong. Please fix this wrong and compensate Ms. Flynn for her years of experience. As I said before, San Marin High School and Nevada Unified School District does not want to lose her. Thank you, Sarah Davis.
Okay, this is the last on this topic. Eleni Katsaros, teacher compensation for Jane Flynn. Good evening. I hope you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during this time. I am writing to request you honor Ms. Flynn's plea for salary recognition. As an active member of both my school community and the district community as well, I get to work with some of our most distinguished teachers, admin, and leaders. Jane is by far one of the best we've seen, and it would truly be a tragedy to lose her. My classroom happens to be an environment where students are encouraged to engage and communicate with their peers. My ears always perk up when the discussion about is about a fellow teacher, though. On numerous occasions, I've heard students speak praise towards Mrs. Flynn, whether it be her ability to help students of all levels or the strong relationships she's already created in her short time here. For some, being the new teacher on campus, especially in a subject like math, is difficult, but Jane has taken on this position with ease and has left a positive and lasting impression on our students and our staff. Furthermore, she continued to do so during strenuous times at hand. Please recognize that her path to becoming a teacher may have been different than most of ours due to her credential being out of state, but her experience and efforts in mastering her craft is not. The past few years, we've all endured the struggle in finding a solid, reliable, and caring math teacher. Let's put an end to this and compensate Ms. Flynn as she deserves so that she is able to become a long-lasting member of our team. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, I'm back. New topic. This is from community member Joyce Collenbrander, NUSD Spring 2020 grading. Thank you for your many years of service and especially during the COVID-19 crisis. My comment is regarding the spring 2020 shift to credit, no credit grading at the secondary school level, which impacts students across 7 years. Universities have stated that they will hold harmless future applicants in regards to spring 2020 grading policies or any factors that are outside the student control. However, currently both the UC and CSU websites contradict the statement and show that moving to credit, no credit grading will negatively impact future applicants. The UC response to COVID-19 states that admissions will remain competitive and that it will not be changing its GPA requirements. GPA will be calculated only using grades that are not credit, no credit, and the additional point in GPA will not be given for AP honors courses taken as credit, no credit. Therefore, the move to credit, no credit will harm those students taking AP honors courses by giving them a lower GPA than what they actually earned. UC also addresses those high schools that are offering a choice between grades and credit, no credit, and offers guidance. UC and private colleges offer holistic admissions reviewed by people, but how can the colleges guarantee that our students will be given equal consideration if credit, no credit grading means that an A student would look the same as a D student? In contrast, CSU admissions only includes GPA and SAT, ACT, and uses a computer algorithm. CSU guidance states that GPA will be calculated using the same metrics as UC. This means that any student taking an AP honors course will not be given the additional GPA point for classes taken credit, no credit, and will be harmed in the application process. When colleges like Cal Poly San Luis Obispo have all impacted majors, even fractions of a GPA point make a difference since there is no human reading the school profile or a counselor's letter that can talk about the individual student situation. CSU is still in the process of defining what metrics they will be using for next year's admissions. Just last week, they announced they will suspend SAT, ACT for admissions. This means that GPA will be even more of a factor in CSU admissions. The majority of NUSD graduates attend CSU and UC colleges as their choice of a four-year university. Last year, 82 San Marin students attended CSU and UC colleges. Taking away any advantage that our students have rightfully earned can be harmful to those in the college application process. If NUSD chooses either Mary Jane Burke's grading policy of allowing students to maintain their grade as of March 16th or move to a choice system with the suggestions from the UC website, both these options would not harm future college applicants. Many districts are having their board or committee make the grading decision. I was surprised to learn that NUSD's decision was made solely by our superintendent with input from others. Having a committee allows for debate and discussion by a group who can bring different perspectives and allow for greater research and knowledge. The UC website gives guidance on offering choice grading, which contradicts the superintendent's findings that UC Berkeley says not to go this route. This committee could have asked UC Berkeley to clarify if they are doing something different than the rest of the UC colleges. This committee could have asked many colleges this question. Okay, that was my time. I will do the last paragraph. With high schools taking such drastically different approaches to spring 2020 grading, such as giving all A's, keeping grades, giving credit, no credit, offering choice, and other variations, college admissions will have a tough time working out a solution that will not do harm to some students. There will continue to be changes to the admissions process. My hope is that the choices we make today will not harm our students in the future. Thank you, Joyce Collenbrander, mother of a current San Marin junior.
I missed the button. This is from Andrew Osborne. This is regarding credit, no credit grading. It says, I am a student at Nevada High, and I believe that not giving a student an option to keep letter grades will really hurt everyone who has taken the time to take AP classes and keep their grades up these past years. As the SAT and ACT aren't being considered for many colleges now, it means having competitive grades are very important. Making it credit, no credit will only mean that the work that students and I have done to keep our grades up this semester won't matter, and they will count the same as students who have done little to no work this year.
This is from Carly Shalene. I'm a junior at Novato High School. I believe that it is a very poor decision to not give students a choice as to whether their letter grades are shown at the end of the year. As of right now, colleges will not be looking at the SAT or ACT for the application process. This means that our grades hold much more value than ever before. By not giving students the choice, you could be taking away their chances of college acceptances and great opportunities. By not giving students a choice, you lump every single student together. This means that the students who always try their best and have taken challenging courses will be seen the same as students who don't care. Our school will not be competitive compared to others if we are not given this choice. Many of my advanced placement teachers have voiced their own concerns as to how this will affect their students. Many of my classmates have similar concerns as me. Throughout my high school career, I have taken advanced placement classes every year and ended each year with A's. I want my hard work to be shown on my future college applications. By taking this choice from the students, you are diminishing the value of their hard work, stress, and tears that they have put into their education.
All right, this is from Allison Murphy. It's in regards to choice for grades versus credit, no credit. I would like to know why parents and students did not have any input on a decision that greatly impacts our students' ability to compete for scholarships and be accepted to college, particularly California colleges. My student is taking 4 AP classes and will be at a disadvantage to other students taking similar courses with the option for grades. Whether the CSU or UC system reports that they will accept credit, no credit for A to G courses, it still doesn't account for our students that have worked so incredibly hard for the extra bump in their GPA and not being able to compete with students that have the choice for grading. Choice is even more important now that the SAT, ACT tests will not be required for California state colleges. Grades will be weighed more heavily without the SAT, ACT calculations, making colleges like Cal Poly less attainable. All of my students' teachers reported that they recommended choice. There are many large school districts that are similar to ours or even larger that have made it possible for their students to have choice in their future. To better serve all our students, there are a few models that make choice a good option. Quite a few school districts are following San Diego's model that does not penalize students who may not have equal access. This model allows for grades, as you are probably already familiar. The students can only improve their grades from a certain date and never achieve a lower grade from that certain date. California has been very creative in finding a way to include all students and not penalizing any particular group. Why can't Nevada be the same?
This is from Janelle Yancey, Secondary Schools Grading Decision. Dear Board, I know hundreds of comments were submitted for the superintendent's video last week, and my secondary grading recommendation has been shared previously with Chris Koska. While there remains uncertainty in the future of how grades might or might not be used by all United States colleges in the next application cycle, I believe we really need to make the best decision we can right now for the benefit of all students. While the no harm approach of credit, no credit sounds kind, it's essentially curving down all of our students and has the potential for great negative impact on several subpopulations of our students. For example, lower cumulative GPAs that exclude spring semester grades plus GPA and SAT is used in merit scholarships to help offset the cost of college tuition. UC and CSUs only use grades from 10th and 11th grade, only 4 semesters, to calculate the GPA. If we remove spring semester, which is 25% of the grading factors, we are left with a cup only 3/4 full. We know that cumulative GPA will likely be a stronger weight in application evaluation criteria with no SAT score potentially being available. I believe that TAM High and several other large districts in the state, such as Los Angeles and San Diego, have it right with a more inclusive approach, choosing instead to curve up their students. The TAM High approach preserves the progress that has been made prior to school closures and promotes further learning without penalizing students in order to equalize. I'm concerned that the current credit, no credit NUSD decision is not equitable and positively inclusive for all students. This unfair action against certain subpopulations of our students may open up NUSD to possible litigation. I recommend the board weigh in on this decision and make a course correction to follow the TAM High grading approach for the reasons outlined above, and also for consistency's sake with our student peers in Marin County. Sincerely, Janelle Yancey, parent, San Marin 11th grader.
Okay, this is from Julie DeRuvo regarding the grading policy. The Tam Union School District Board made a decision last night to have their grading policy for this semester reflect the letter grade that was earned by the student prior to March 15th. The students will then be given either an A grade or an F based on student effort and commitment during the quarantine, all while maintaining their GPA, which will be beneficial for college admissions. I believe that Superintendent Kotzke's intention to implement the credit no credit policy was well intended, however, very premature. As a result, other districts have found more creative grading policies that benefit all students and creates more equality when it comes to college admissions. I hope Superintendent Kotzke and the board will rescind the initial grading policy and consider a more equitable policy like TAM's, where grades are still earned and the policy holds students accountable to show up for their class time with their teachers and still complete their classwork by a deadline. This seems to be the most logical and beneficial solution for the students as well as the teachers. I hope you will consider adjusting NUSD's temporary grading policy that is equitable to all of our students. Thank you for your consideration.
Michell Shepler, grading in absence of instruction. I have a high school junior right now, and I'm very concerned that she is not being prepared by her teachers to have success with the college application process in the fall. With the absence of letter grades in our district, I'm highly concerned she is not going to be considered alongside students from other districts who may be getting letter grades this semester or private school students who are continuing to get much needed instruction 6 hours a day. I'm concerned she is missing instruction this semester that would allow her to be successful in taking the ACT or SAT, or even more importantly, to be prepared to go back to school in the fall. I know the decision was made to find equity for all students, but I'm afraid this decision has inequitably forgotten those students who are college bound. What is going to happen to their letter grades and overall GPA? How will they receive the AP bump? These extremely relevant issues should be spelled out by the board.
All right, this is from Julie Moyer regarding grading decision. Why can't it be countywide? With the recent decision of the TAM School District to implement a grading system for the rest of the semester, which includes an A letter grade to be averaged with the grade that the student had at the beginning of the shelter in place, as long as the student remains in good standing, which encourages students to stay engaged. Now 3 high schools in our county will have letter grades included in their GPA. Why can't all school districts in Marin County implement the same policy for fairness and equity? Now our NUSD students are at a disadvantage when applying to colleges when a fellow Marin County student's GPA for the semester will be factored in, while our students' GPA won't. When most colleges only look at sophomore and junior year grades, this semester matters.
Deb and Tim Sullivan, grading policy. We understand these are unique and challenging times regarding our students and education. As a result, require creative solutions. We would propose implementing a hybrid grading model adopted by TAM High, where it is a win-win for all students. This model, as we understand, gives all students with a pass an A, which is then averaged with third quarter grades to calculate GPA. This takes into account inequities during fourth quarter. The current Novato model of PNP punishes the A students, especially with AP classes.
Okay, now we're going to change topics. This is from Mariah Fisher, president of NFT, and I'm going to read half of this comment as half of this is about non-agenda. The other half is about budget, so I'll read the other half when we get to the budget section. Good evening. My name is Mariah Fisher, and I am the president of the Novato Federation of Teachers. I'm also a teacher, a parent of 3 children in NUSD, and a community member. I'm speaking tonight about 2 key issues upon us. I'll start with your amazing special ed staff. In this unprecedented time, the pressure on this group of educators is immense. They work well beyond the 9 to 2 day, as do most of us, but their load is extreme and much more demanding. The pressure these educators are feeling to pull NUSD through this time with no litigation is not sustainable. While administration is encouraging teachers to lift pressure, admin is continuing to put pressure on this group of educators working with our most vulnerable and complex group of students. I was told that part of the reason we moved to credit no credit was to lift some of the pressure on the intense environment we find ourselves currently in. It seems like we have yet to specifically brainstorm how to lift some of the pressure on our special education staff. we should be asking ourselves, what can we do to reduce the stress and responsibility on our special education staff? How can admin take some of the responsibility off their plate so they can be more student focused and less focused on making sure the district doesn't get sued? Their priority to be the children. Please encourage admin to work on helping this pool of educators. And there is more, but I'll read the more when we get to the budget portion. Okay, I believe that is the last of our non-agenda public comment items.
I have one. I kind of kept track of everything. I think we may have missed one. So I just want to make sure we've captured every one of them.
What is that? Who is that?
I have a comment from a Jennifer Opegard. Oppegard. It came in about 4:30.
Let me dig here. Hopefully we find it. Thank you, Debbie, for checking. Maybe it got. I do not see it.
It may have, you know what? It may have been, I apologize. It may have been on a regular email to the board
Okay.
and to you. So we'll
Okay.
we'll send that along to the rest of the board. I think you may have already gotten it in your email, but it was not considered public comment. So my apologies for not.
Good. Yeah, no problem.
Sorry about that. Okay, so that concludes our non-agenda public comment. Can you provide the board some information in regards to the math teacher?
Yes.
We need
Happy
some
to.
further explanation there for the board. This is the first time we're hearing that. So I appreciate that.
Yep.
Moving on to our staff report. First one is our budget assumptions for 2020, 2021. Something we do every year. Yancey Hawkins is joining us.
Boom, there he is, just like magic.
All right, Chris, could you allow my screen sharing so that I can put up the presentation?
You ask like that's so easy. Like I'm just gonna, I think, David, you're gonna help us with that?
No, you got it.
Okay, how do I gotta go. Okay, hold on, little technical so manage participants. Okay, and then.
You can click his name and then click on allow signature.
Okay. Hey, what do you know? I'm learning here. Allow. I see I can put him in the waiting room and I can allow him to record, but I don't see allow screen sharing as an option. How you doing, Mr. Hawkins?
I am well. As you can see, the shelter in place has taken its toll on my hair, but other than that, pretty good.
I can solve that problem for you tomorrow.
Thank you.
We're working on allowing you to share the screen. I see a couple.
So, could you tell him if he moves his mouse around at the bottom?
Do you have the screen share option, Yancey, when you move your mouse around on the bottom?
Yeah, it notes host disabled participants screen sharing.
Here. Got it. How about that? Did that change anything?
All right.
No. All right.
All right.
Well,
Well,
you just got to start clicking around a little bit.
there we go. Hey, thank you, Superintendent, Koska, trustees. Tonight, we're going to go over our 2020-2021 budget workshop and specifically our assumptions as we move forward into budget development. One thing I can tell you is that, we are in very uncertain times. And so this will be a little bit different from our usual April budget presentation. We're going to have some additional information here. We're going to have a couple different scenarios here and likely more to come on that. And the one thing that I can absolutely tell you is things are going to change a lot over the next 3 to 4 months and likely the next year or two. So we always start with our budget by planning, by reflecting on our mission, vision, and values. And then we move into our budget pressures. So I'm going to break this into two kind of separate things. You know, we have our kind of normal budget pressures, and then we obviously have the extraordinary situation going on with the COVID-19 related impacts and the shelter in place order. So, you know, we have the continuing budget pressures of declining enrollment. We still project declining enrollment, already slowing state revenues, increases to state imposed pension accounts and rates, unfunded federal mandates, specifically special education, and NUSD's low funding level in comparison to the other Marin districts. Specifically, when we get into the COVID-19 crisis and that's related impacts, I want to really focus the board and the community just on uncertainty. You know, we really don't have all the information yet. We know there's going to be significant impacts for this, but we are still in the early stages and we are looking at those impacts. We'll have some more information in May when the governor puts out his May revise. We'll have some more information in June when the state adopts its budget, and then likely we will have an updated state budget in August or September. A couple of notes. The Department of Finance recently noted that California could see a reduction over the next two budget cycles of $50 billion. They noted that to the legislature a couple of days ago. If you took a very high level of that, schools are approximately 40% of the state budget. So the impact to schools could be $20 billion over the next 2 years. And just a quick calculation down what that would mean to NUSD. And again, this is very high level. This isn't anything specific, but based on that Department of Finance comment, the impact to NUSD could be up to $20 million. So to put that into perspective, the state reserve right now is about $17 billion. One thing to note, one of the differences between 2009 and the Great Recession versus now is the state's position moving into that. Before that, the state had been running budget deficits for several years and its reserve was almost nothing. So we are lucky in the sense of the state does have a decent reserve moving into this crisis, but that likely will be used up very quickly given the reduction in revenue of a shelter-in-place order statewide. A couple other things, the legislature has already declared that 2020-2021 will be a quote-unquote workload budget. And what that means is basically all the proposals in the January budget that I spoke to the board and community about in January are off the table. And basically they're looking at a year-over-year budget. Also, due to the tax day moving from April 15th to July 15th, that is a key indicator for state revenues. And because we won't have that prior to the May revise or June adopted budget, there is almost certainly going to be an August or September state budget adjustment. So basically a second budget. So we expect that the June budget that we will get by June 15th, but it will be a placeholder and need to be adjusted in August or September. And we haven't seen that for almost 10 years. Enrollment, we continue to project a decline in enrollment. We saw a bump up in 2019-20, but 1 year does not make a trend. So we hope some of the work that we did to move the needle in enrollment might be working, but we still are projecting a decline of about 100 to 120 students a year. Since our students bring in about $10,000 per student from the state, that 100 to 120 has $1 million to a $1.2 million impact each year. Starting in 2013-14, we've discussed this, the impact of state mandated pension contribution increases over the previous 6 years and into next year. We've seen an almost $6 million increase to the district's contribution, state mandated by the legislature to the STRS and PERS. And so we continue to look at the impact of that. To put it in perspective, $6 million is about 55 to 60 teachers. We still have unfunded mandates, specifically special education. To be clear, this is a revenue problem. The state and federal government continue to fund less than 40% of the cost of these needed services. And so a part of that cost comes from the unrestricted general fund for what the federal and state government do not cover. One continuing issue that we've seen from the state, it's something they've used since Governor Brown and into the first year of Governor Newsom, is the use of one-time revenue. In the last 6 years, the NUSD has received between $500,000 and up to $4 million in one-time unrestricted revenue. So what this does, though, is it distorts the true financial standing of the district because it continues to have, it has one-time revenue, whereas most of our costs are ongoing. Also, just we noted the NUSD continues to be at or near the bottom of funding levels on a per student level in Marin County. So what has NUSD done to react to these budget pressures? For the 2018-19 school year, we impaneled a budget advisory committee, and they made recommendations, and we made $2.2 million of reductions. Moving into 2019-20, we used the budget advisory committee as a starting point, and then we went out and got comprehensive community outreach and feedback, and made recommendations and approved an additional $1.8 million in budget reductions and solutions. For 2020-21, we pursued Measure A, which would have been an extension and increase to the parcel tax in a March election. We also have done maintenance, operations, and transportation reorganization, where we had a reduction of 2 administrators. And we continue to update our staffing based on our new enrollment projections, and we'll have related staffing reductions of 5 FTEs through attrition, likely based on our current enrollment projections. So where did those budget reductions of the $4 million in reductions made in 2018-19 and 2019-20, over 3 million of them came in 2 categories. One is just declining enrollment, so no change to our staffing formula, just 25 less students equals 1 less classroom. And then $1.37 million in administrative and district office reductions. All right. Moving into our budget development process and timeline, you've seen this here, but just to focus on a couple items, the governors may revise in May 2020. So this is going to be very interesting to see what is in here. We expect to see some deferrals, likely back in the early 2000s and through the Great Recession, we saw apportionment deferrals, which were deferrals of our state funding from the end of the year to early in the next year in order to avoid some cuts. And we can expect some other information regarding what impact this COVID-19 and shelter in place will impact. Also, just to highlight again, we expect the budget at the state level to be approved in June, but truly that will be a placeholder budget, and we won't get the real revenue numbers for next year until August or September, when we expect the legislature and the governor to approve an amended state budget. Moving on, the assumptions that we are currently using, which will likely be updated in May, are here. So this used to be the focus of the budget assumption workshop that we did in April. Obviously, we've changed a little bit, so the most likely numbers to change are those top end numbers, that COLA from the Department of Finance. Those numbers are likely to go down at least in 2020 and 2020, 2021, and 2021, 2022. And it's also important to note, looking at the change in enrollment, about 80 and 112 projected moving forward that we will see in the next year. Just to remind the board and the community, we are held harmless for a single year for declining enrollment. Alrighty. So I usually have a updated multi-year projection off of our second interim. Well, this time we've provided the board and the community with two multi-year projections. And likely as we move forward in this budget development season, you might see more than that scenarios. So the first multi-year projection is using the governor's January budget assumptions, which we expect to be updated in May. But that shows COLAs in the mid twos across 2020, 2021, 2021-22, and 2022-23. It's important to note that even in this budget scenario, which I would consider the rosiest budget scenarios, we would still need significant budget reductions in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million in 2021-22 or 2022-23. It's also important to note that under these scenarios, the reserve would be down to the minimum state recommended 3%. I think the second MY multi-year projection is probably going to be closer to the actual impact of this COVID-19 crisis and the impact on state budgets, depending on other factors. What this does is include a zero COLA scenario. So this no COLAs in 2020-21, 2021-22, and 2022-23. With that scenario, the district could be looking at $3.5 million of reductions for 2021, 2022, and then almost an additional $6 million in reductions in 2022-23. If you note it notes $9.3 million of reductions in 2022-23. That's cumulative across the 2 years. Again, we would be down to the 3% required reserve, and that's with the cuts. Continuing to look at our unrestricted fund balance history, In the last 10 years, we've moved out from 22% to about 12% at the beginning of this year. Without any budget reductions by the end of the third year, even in the rosiest of scenarios, under the current January governor's budget, we would be to 0%, almost to zero in the reserve without budget reductions. So I debated pulling this slide out, but you know, the needs haven't changed. In fact, they've probably increased, you know, with distance learning, with the impact of, you know, cleaning and additional services needed for the community, including food and others. We probably have more budgetary needs moving forward, but it's, you know, just a couple of them. We still have to, you know, fund the state required STRS and PERS increases. You know, we still need mental health services. You know, we still need those required LCAP expenditures. So just to kind of summarize, really uncertainty reigns right now. You know, I could come in and tell you I know exactly what's going to be happening in May and June, but I'd be lying. So I think we're going to, you know, get our first big key piece of information in May. And then really it's going to be the August, September timeframe that we really have a good picture of where the next 2 years of budgets are going. Again, June will be a placeholder budget we are expecting at the state level. The governor's budget, January budget, is dead at this point. It is, any of the things in there are likely off the table. And you know, we're going into some tough times in the next couple of years from the state perspective. You know, hopefully the state will look at education and, you know, try to protect it for the most they can. Hopefully there's some federal revenues that could come in and support either specifically education or the state budget in general. You know, but, you know, we're going to have to, you know, act in the best impact, do the best thing for our students. And sometimes that looks at keeping financially solvent during these periods. So more information to come, especially in May. But with that, I'm happy to open it up to questions from trustees.
Trustee Mack, I know you had a question. Trustee Cooper.
Sorry, I was muted. There we go. Yes, thank you, Yancey. Terrifying, but thank you for putting it together. I know it wasn't an easy task. Slide 4, enrollment. Obviously, the world has changed, and I would think that our enrollment projections will get revised as well. Not expecting there to be an answer right away, but just want to get your take on my assumption that we might need to seriously revisit these numbers by virtue of just the world has changed. It could be in our favor, it might not be. I don't know. I want to think it is in our favor in terms of these numbers, but I'd like to better understand that dynamic if we have a chance, when we can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We will be reviewing these numbers. We're currently reviewing our enrollment numbers right now for next year, looking at different class numbers at the elementary level specifically. But you know, I expect there to be changes in our trends because of this COVID-19 and shelter in place.
Right. Yeah. And we'll see which direction it goes. And then slide 10, and I'm just being a little dense, so that happens sometimes. Can you explain the last category, what we mean there again? So I understand everything else are straight cuts from those programs, but I'm not clear on how declining enrollment is a cut.
So the best example I can give, it would be at an elementary level. You know, we were averaging about 600 students in each grade, back for the births before 2008, 2009. And so when we would have 3 classes of 5th graders go out, we may only have had 2 classes of kindergarten come into a school. And so what we would do is through attrition, we haven't had to do any layoffs, but we would reduce a class at a given elementary school through attrition because of the reduction in students. So we did not change our staffing formula at all, but just by virtue of us having less students, we needed less sections.
Right. So we're reducing our variable costs in that regard due to.
Exactly.
Okay. And I should have caught that. I didn't at first. Okay. And then basically I'm adding these numbers up quick in my head. It looks like it's about 4 million over the last 2 years, evenly spread over those 2 years. About
Yeah,
2 million.
2.2 and 1.8. So pretty evenly spread.
Yeah. Okay. And then a good solid percentage of it, I'm going to guess about 30% of that has been admin costs already.
Yeah, administrative and district office costs.
And this is one number that's on there, and you don't have to pull this up out of your head or right now, but I'd be curious to know that 1,367 cut in the last 2 years, what percentage of admin and district office expenses that represent?
I would have to pull that number together and get it to the board.
Okay. But I think it'd be helpful. That's it for me.
Trustee Cooper?
All right, thank you, Yancey. Just a couple questions regarding projected enrollment. Are these, so you're looking, it looks like we're bucking the trend we did last year. In 1920, we increased, and now we're projecting that we're going to be on the decline again. Have we gotten any update from Target River, or do these numbers reflect any positive outcome from their fine work?
So they do reflect a 1-year impact, but typically enrollment trends, they're looking at more than 1 year. So yeah, it does take into consideration the impact from 1920, but the overall birth rates in Marin County, and specifically in Novato, and the general trend line, I think, are the key numbers that they're looking at. But we obviously are hopeful that our continued work in that area would change that trend line. And if we get a couple years of trend line data, then the percentages change and the enrollment projections could change. But
Sure.
Currently, I think given the birth rate numbers in Marin County
Right, of course.
and our general trend, this is absolutely the correct way for us to look at it.
At this point, yeah.
Yep.
So do you, when will we, just not to harp on this, but when will we be getting some kind of updated information from Target River, what they're doing? Because that could impact this in a great way.
So I can touch on that.
Okay.
We get updated information about contacts from Target River fairly consistently, pretty much every month. But what we don't get from them is this person reached out to us and they are going to enroll in your school, and they weren't going to before. So Leslie follows up each of those folks with our Spanish speakers. One of our community liaison helps her with that.
Okay.
But the challenge we have is we don't know if that drives a kid that was already in our numbers, or if that drives a kid that wasn't otherwise in the projected numbers. So at some point, as we get later in the school year, we start looking less at projections and more at actual enrollment. We just aren't quite to that point yet. So
Okay.
right now, we're still dependent upon the projection.
Okay, good. Thanks for the update on that. Also,
You're
yes, we must be realizing quite a bit of utility savings. Is that anything significant, or I don't even know what?
Yeah, so there are some savings that we are having with this period. One of the things, we're trying to be efficient in our, we've changed the settings on all of our HVAC systems district-wide. And so we should see some savings there. We've significantly lowered the amount of garbage pickups that we have at our sites, and we're doing. Water continues about the same level because we still have to water the fields and
Right.
those kind of things. You know, I do expect a little bit of savings there. We're also incurring additional costs in some areas. So I expect us to probably, you know, they'll probably even each other out, but we're still waiting to see, you know, what are the additional requirements that come down in the next couple of months that may increase costs.
Okay, and then one final question. Yesterday in the budget update from FICMAT, there was some discussion about pushing back on or deferring or pushing back somehow on the PERS and STIRS increases that we continue to incur. What's your feeling on that? Or do you have anything?
So yeah, there is a pretty big push by school districts at the state level, not to reduce the level of contribution, but to hold us at the same level as we are.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned when the Department of Finance, when they spoke to the legislature a week ago or a few days ago, they were very specific of talking about the money, that the $3 billion that they put in the 2019-20 budget to reduce the increase that districts, and to be clear, they weren't reducing our contribution. They were just reducing how much our contribution was increasing that year. But they were really focusing on that as something they had done for schools. So at least from the Department of Finance, I don't see that as really an option. Now, how that plays out politically, I think we'll see in the May revise if there's any legs to potentially that. If there's nothing in the May revise, I don't expect anything to come out of that in the adopted budget.
Okay, and one final question I'd like. Your gut feeling is that we'll end up with zero COLA this year or next year?
I think that is very, very likely.
Yeah.
And then we'll see for 21, 22, and 22, 23.
Okay.
Obviously, I think it depends on how long the shelter in place continues and what those impacts are on the state budget and any federal bailouts for the state or education in general to potentially offset some of those.
Yep. Well, regardless, I think it's time for us to dig in our heels and get the process going again, where we look at some very serious cuts, unfortunately. Thank you.
Any other board members? Trustee Gasson, Trustee Nell, Aguila?
Yeah.
Yep, Trustee Gasson?
Hi, thanks Yancey for the information. I never know like when it's appropriate to say stuff or not, so just tell me if another meeting is better. But I kind of wanted to make a couple statements about two of the slides and then ask to see if we could get some information. The first is about the budget pressures slide, and I see the things that you've got, and I know COVID-19 is up there, but I wanted to point out just to say that obviously part of it isn't just at the district level, it's at each school site. And being in a school that relies heavily on fundraising and having events and stuff, I've seen how there is an impact, and rightly so, there's nervousness from parents and the community in terms of what they're going to be able to support, because generally when we go through a bad time, there is some, a lot of support through our PTAs, and they actually do a lot more than I think many people realize, in terms of, at least in several school sites that I am familiar with, they are paying for positions, counselors or yard supervisors or special assistants and stuff like that. So I think, not to add to the stress of everything, but just an awareness that, we usually fall back on school sites to try to help fill in those holes or those places that we may not be able to fully fund at the time. And they're going to be in a similar situation, having had all of their methods to raise funds kind of diminished or not existing anymore. So that's a concern for me. The slide that says budgetary needs, I kind of wanted to see if maybe we could elaborate a little bit when you're looking at our next, the next budget presentation, and including, I hate to say this, but I've been talking to a lot of our community and just focusing on what is the absolute, our job is to educate kids. And so what are the things that we need to do from the core to make that happen? So when we're looking at cuts or things and how we're going to be moving forward, what are the essential things that we should and must provide? And then what are the things that are kind of what we would like to do as well? And I know that that's a hard conversation. And one big concern I have is that it has the potential to maybe create inequities in schools, because some PTAs might be able to fill in where we can't. But I think at this point, with looking at our numbers on, I forget how you phrased it, Yancey, but like the best bright and sunny forecast is kind of coming down to where we have to make some decisions and looking at how we're what we're funding. So with that, I actually had a couple of requests, and again, I don't know if this is appropriate now, but one of the things that I'd be curious to know when we're looking at this information is our properties that we own, and if what restrictions we might have or what possibilities we have with those properties. Also was looking at, I lost my notes. There was something else I wanted to look up, but I can't find it now, so I will have to send that to you. But just looking,
if it comes back up during the conversation, just mention it.
Okay. And I guess in just one last thing, and I appreciate that it's on the budgetary needs, I'm still really adamant and feel it is important to keep our class sizes. I keep hearing about, oh, it's just one more kid, but that's one that I can see Chris smiling, because I just know being in those classrooms, one kid is the difference. And so as much as we can keep that, that would be great. So
Okay,
I think that was it.
Thanks. Trustee Nell or Trustee Aguila, did you have any? And Elizabeth, if you want to chime in, you're more than welcome to, obviously. Anybody? No? Okay.
No, I'm good. Some of the questions were topics that I was also interested in, and I had other concerns, but I spoke to Chris, outside of the meeting, and so thank you for doing the best.
Okay. We do have some public comment. Chris, are you ready, or Ellen?
Yeah, so I'm going to start, and then I'll hand it off to Ellen for the second one. So I'm going to read the second half of the initial submission from Mariah Fisher, president of NFT. And she says, the second topic I would like to address is our budget, current and future cuts, and the need to continue to streamline. I am concerned that we are not seeing a larger reduction in administration and costs connected to the district office. Cuts need to stay away from the classrooms. It is as simple as that. School auctions across the district were canceled due to school closure. Sites are going to feel pinched by PTO/PTA budgets. They're going to be much tighter for many of our sites. The district needs to take a harder look at where the cuts can be made outside of the classroom and off of school sites to help lift this financial pressure on our sites. Why didn't the board take the opportunity to reduce themselves from 7 members to 5 when we spent all of that time and money on creating the district maps? I brought this up a number of times, and no surprise, you voted yourselves to stay at 7. This is a potential cost savings that would not impact the running of the district. Los Angeles Unified has a 5-member board. Does Novato really need 7? Making this decision impacts our budget. It means that cuts will need to happen somewhere else. I look at priorities and goals to move myself forward in times like these. If your priority is not what's happening in the classroom, then what is it? So that's the conclusion of her initial submission. She also submitted another one for 12A, which I will read now. Again, I talk about priorities. The budget projections show a cut of almost 1/2 in the area of books and supplies. This is an area that touches on our students directly. This is a category that is essential in a time where PTO/PTAs are going to have reduced funding for supporting our sites, and you cut them in half. At what point do we say we have declining enrollment, so we need fewer administrators? Why is it that we cut books and supplies over a director or two? This is the kind of budget cut that deeply concerns me. I'm concerned that decisions are being made without proper oversight due to the situation we currently find ourselves in. I'm concerned that instead of creating a committee composed of a diverse pool of NUSD community members to see where cuts can be made, cuts are just being made without any input from stakeholders. Where is the cut on consultants? Where is the reduction in administrators? Where is the cut on trainings and partnerships? All of which are great when times are good, but when times are bad, you cut cable, not the grocery bill. And let's be honest, books and supplies are the groceries of education. They are essential. Okay.
All right, this is from a community member, Julia Lavaroni, titled Share the Pain. In a recent Marin IJ opinion piece, Dick Spotswood urged county officials, including school administrators, to share the pain by voluntarily taking pay cuts. Nevada voters recently denied an attempt to extend and increase the existing parcel tax, in part because they understood that the root cause of the funding problem lies with the state not prioritizing school funding and not adequately funding pension funds. We are now at the beginning of what many believe will be a prolonged and far-reaching economic downturn. Taxpayers I'm not sure what that was. Taxpayers who are struggling in a good economy will now be pushed irretrievably over the edge. Each of the Board of Trustees draws a stipend for attending these meetings. They also have health benefits available. No other Marin County K-12 board receives such benefits. Additionally, despite understanding the depth of the funding problem and a looming crisis should an economic downturn occur, a downturn that has not in fact materialized, the Board of Trustees approved and the Superintendent accepted a guaranteed 3.5% annual salary increase yearly for the remainder of his contract, which I believe expires in 2023. Will the Board of Trustees and Superintendent Koska now show good faith to the struggling taxpayer to which they are beholden and who have always supported the NUSD, and share in the pain by foregoing their stipends and health benefits and by refusing the annual salary increase?
Okay, that concludes our public comment for this item. Back to the board. My question for you, Yancey, and I think you said it, we definitely have some uncertainty right now. That's what we heard yesterday. And basically scenarios was the word we heard, constantly doing scenarios, which you've presented a couple here tonight with us, and that helps us. Is there anything, my first question is in regards to the 3% reserve, just kind of rhetorical, what happens if we used all of that up? Can we just go ahead? Why do we have to constantly have 3%, and why can we never really use it?
So the state requires under AB 1200 that all districts our size keep a 3% reserve. Now, truly, the Government Financial Officers Association recommends that you have a 16 to 17% reserve. So 3% is already, that is less than a third of a month's payroll. So that's just not going to be good enough anyways, but that is the requirement at the state level. Ultimately, what would happen is if we went below that and couldn't make payroll, we would have to take a loan from the state, and the state would basically take over the district, similar to what happened in Oakland, Richmond, and Vallejo.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it. I mean, I think there's going to be so many districts facing what we're facing. Is the state prepared to take over 1,000 districts? I doubt it. So we have some serious conversations, as many trustees have said. We've got to really think this through. There are going to be some hard conversations, some challenging ones. What can the board do now? is there something the board can do now to be prepared for this? I think you've kind of expressed that already in creating a timeline for us. It seems like we have to wait for the May revision and go from there. But I just want to make sure, is there anything more the board can do to start planning ahead of potentially what the cuts are going to be?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, at this point, since the shelter-in-place order, I think came on something that's about the 17th of March, that was past the point in when the board can do a lot of the things for reductions for 2020-21. But I do believe the board could direct staff to start updating those lists of potential budget solutions now, so that we can hit the ground running when we get to August and we truly know, what is the magnitude of the reductions that we will need. We're going to bring forward a budget balancing process in the fall. I think this just moves up the timing a little bit. So absolutely, I think the board could direct staff to start planning that and start bringing together an updated list of potential budget solutions.
For me, I think that's what we need to do. I'm in agreement with that. The sooner we can start looking at this picture and getting it clearer where we're headed, and the more we can incorporate the community in some way. Do we revisit the budget survey we did? That I think we need to do that. Have a budget workshop if we have to have. To bring more than just the board as part of the conversation. These are going to be hurting us across the board. And I want to make sure my decision includes everybody's opinion and decision on this. Is the rest of the board in agreement with that? That we move this timeline up a little bit?
Move it up as fast as we can.
Yeah, I prefer. Although I actually would love to get input from the community and everything, but I think one of the things I'd like to make sure we're clear about is, I know the last one we focused so much on certain segments, which we only got like a very small fraction of those people speaking. So to the extent that we can get as much input as we can, but also realize that, reconcile whatever responses we get and balance that with the decisions that we make, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Does that make sense? No. I just feel like we're focused with the lists that keep getting circulated around. When we look at how many people responded to the survey that we initially did, it was just like a very small population. There was only like a handful of people that responded.
Okay.
One thing that we're sure about is that whatever process we use for these cuts needs to be a new process. We need to look at what we can learn from past processes that worked well and that didn't work well, and make sure that we're implementing a best practices model. So we'll work on that.
Okay. Anything else, Yancey, or?
Yeah, one just clarification on one of the public comments. I understand where it came from, but it was around supplies cuts, and I just wanted to clarify that we are not recommending supplies cuts moving into 2020, 2021. As
the textbooks, sorry, the textbooks, is that what
yeah.
Okay.
I believe it can look that way because the 2019-20 budget includes some funding for textbook adoptions. That is lottery funding. And so that's carryover funding that gets removed from each budget year as we propose the budget. But since we are not doing adoption by the end of the year, that money will be rolled over into the 2021-22 budget and available for those textbook adoption. I believe the next of which is science.
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor, Yancey, and reach out to Mariah, make sure she understands that, and make sure you guys are on the same page?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. That'd be great. Thank you.
If there's no other comments or questions, we'll conclude that item and move on. I don't
Yeah,
see
I
anything
have
else.
a-
Oh, you
I-
have one? Okay,
yes.
Trustee Aguila?
I was wondering about, sometimes I tend to agree, sometimes budgets, surveys don't really cover the whole story. That's just like a piece of the puzzle. Wondering, I am in favor of workshops, and I'm not saying no to surveys. If we do, could we make sure we always have the surveys translated and the workshops with an interpreter? But anything else that we can think of, I wouldn't just stick to those two things. And also, I was wondering, Yancey, what date what was the date that you said that we need to start?
So I think we need to start right away in the fall when we get the updated the state budget in August or early September. And by starting, I mean start the process. So that means all the planning, all the information gathering has already happened, so we can move straight into that process as we begin the school year next year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll conclude this item. Again, this was a staff report. Thank you, Yancey.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 12B. This is the Next Generation Science Standards update, elementary and middle school. There's Amanda.
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you? Yay, and we're up. Are you guys seeing my slideshow?
Yep.
Yay, even better. That's successful. Well, good evening, Superintendent Koska, President Butler, and fellow trustees. I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys all the science update for our elementary schools and our middle schools for this year. So the NUSD adoption process, I just wanted to give you some history of where we were and where we're going. So back in 2013, the state of California adopted the Next Generation Science Standards, which you often see as NGSS. The following year thereafter, the state of California worked on an implementation plan of how they wanted this to roll out to our schools in the state of California. Then from 2015 to 2018, no curriculum was available for teachers and students to use, but rather what they wanted to do was to provide professional development opportunities for school leaders and teachers to participate in, so that way they became well-diverse in understanding the concepts and the ways that students would need to go about making meaning of the science and the practices that they would use. So that's what you would often hear as the 3 disciplines of the science. So in that time frame, we sent teachers, TOSAs, and district administrators and some site administrators to the rollouts that the state provided, and it gave professional development in phenomenon, in inquiry process, in the different disciplines. And then from there, we worked with MCOE to look at these in our classrooms and to better support our teachers in rolling out staff development for them. So this last school year, NUSD worked with MCOE and other schools in Marin County to go through the Toolkit for Instructional Materials Evaluation, known as the TIME process. It was one that was developed by the state of California, and it's a process to go through different curriculums that publishers are providing and to really use a critical eye to determine what are the strengths of the programs and what are the weaknesses. And this one specifically really aligns with the science, with all the different lenses that are critical in science instruction to make sure that it's going to be accessible for our students and best lead to their understanding. So after that time process, we then identified a few programs that we wanted to look further at piloting. So once we did that, we selected TWIG for the elementary to pilot this school year, and then we selected Green Ninja for the middle schools. So to start, I'm going to speak to the elementary team. We had 22 teachers across kindergarten to 5th grade, also a teacher in the dual immersion program who looked at the Spanish version for the dual immersion program as well. Like I said before, they piloted TWIG Science. It's one that's here local, and it was one that scored pretty high on the time process that I spoke to a moment ago. During our process, we had 2 full days of collaboration with these 22 teachers. One of the days was focused on them going through the time process so that they could really see the strengths of the program and what things that we're really looking at as we were evaluating the different curriculums. And another day was to go through and learn about the TWIG platform itself from the representatives and to have time to plan and go through the program. Then throughout the pilot, their representatives came to work with our teachers. They did phone calls and virtual conferences with them, as well as in person. And then recently we had an afternoon with all the teachers who were able to be there to discuss what their findings were from using the TWIG platform. They used the toolkit tools for evidence to base our discussion off of. And we used different evidence of student learning to look at as well. What came to be was that while there are many good points of TWIG, they aren't ready to fully commit to saying that this is the one that they would like to recommend for adoption at this time. Rather, they would like to look at another option. Due to our current circumstances, we will need to postpone that until next school year when we are able to resume in person, so that way they are able to fully use a program in its fidelity with our students in live experiences to get an understanding of that this will be the best program for our students. So right now what they're requesting is to continue the pilot process and explore another program next school year. Like I said, I'm really appreciative that they are using a critical eye and that they want to be sure that it's going to be in the best interest of students and teachers who will be using this for time to come. Then our middle school counterparts, we had 14 science teachers in grades 6th through 8th grade who piloted. They piloted Green Ninja Science, and that is a program that is here locally in Silicon Valley. It was also one that was scored very high through that time process that I spoke to earlier. What they went through was 2 full days of collaboration. Their first day of collaboration was with the TWIG program and their representatives. Many of these teachers had already been part of the time process through MCOE, and so they were able to do that process with this program. And then the next day we came back, or not the next day, the next day that we did come back, we went through the evidence like we did before and talked about the pros and the cons of the program. While they found also some strengths in the program, a lot of it was not hands-on enough for students, which they feel is an integral part of a science program. They also felt like there was lack of supports for our EL and special ed students, which were highly concerning to us as well. So moving forward, what they did was they went through and looked at their course outlines. We went by course alike, and we looked at the scope and sequence in which they were teaching their standards, and they all agreed upon the time that they would teach their standards, but the way in which they would teach it may look differently. And so rather, because they've spent 3 years really developing their curriculum in the absence of programs out there, they would like to be able to continue to explore supplemental materials. Some of the ones that they have looked at exploring is Newsella, which provides articles for students to read at varying lexile levels, and it would be access to the science articles as well. They have access to Brain in English, but they would like the Spanish version added on, so that would help some of our English language learners who do speak Spanish to be able to access the science content. They're looking at Legends of Learning, Teach Chemistry, and then Scale are some of the things that they've proposed to look at this point. So one thing I want you guys to know is that we are not alone in this process. In conversations with Marin County and other counties surrounding us, we're finding that we're in the same place, that the programs that have been put out there this year aren't necessarily the ones after piloting and going through the time process to meet the needs that we're wanting our students to be able to experience science at this time. So at this time, they're going to, like I said, elementary is looking to pilot another program next school year when we resume, and the middle school is looking to be able to go through and look at supplemental and how that supports the curriculum they've developed thus far in alignment to their scope and sequence across the district in science instruction and the course alike. So at this time, I'll open it up to you guys for any questions or comments that you may have regarding the science update for elementary and middle school.
Okay, thank you. I think your last slide was the most helpful, knowing that we're not the only one in this situation, because I was very anxious reading it until I got there, and I'm like, okay, this is helpful knowing that there's an issue out there with some of the materials that are being presented, as you said. So that was helpful. I feel like we've been at this for years with NGSS. It seems like it's been in play for a long time. It seems like it could go a little bit faster, but I'd rather it be done right than moving it along. So questions from the board? Trustee Gasson?
Just something you said just struck me. If there's other schools that are having the same challenges, have those agencies been given all that feedback as to what maybe is not quite working so that they can modify? I mean, if we're not the only one, it leads me to also think that there's work that needs to be done on that other side. It's not just about finding another program.
Yes, so I know that for us specifically, we did provide our feedback to both of the programs of the strengths, the weaknesses, the concerns, the questions we still have. And it was done during the pilot process as well as a cumulative at the end. I know MCOE also has been providing different feedback. This is the first year that they have been able to put out programs for potential adoption. So I anticipate that they will continue to revise them and add to them as they're getting the feedback. And so like Ms. Butler did just say, I am appreciative that our teachers are being really thoughtful in their decisions instead of rushing to adopt something, because we, especially at elementary, we haven't had anything where the jacks of all trades, that it'd be nice to have something that we can actually go ahead and use and teach. But instead of just trying to fill that gap, that we're being really thoughtful of what we are using to fill that gap and make sure that it's going to be the right thing, because it is an investment.
Thank you. Anybody else? Questions? Nope, I'm seeing none. Speak up if you, because I'm scrolling through names and faces.
Debbie, I
Trustee
have a
Cooper.
question. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Amanda. Just a quick question. What kind of deadline, or is there a deadline that we have to have this kind of ironed out, or is it just we're getting there when we get there?
Yeah, so we're getting there when we get there is the short answer. Deadline, as far as right now, there isn't a mandate that we have to have something adopted. Like I said, this is the first year that programs are even available to go through the process for adoption. I'm not sure what their state will go, because we do have CAS testing, which is the standardized testing for science in 5th grade, 8th grade, and then usually in 12th grade. So it could very well be that they have some sort of mandate that we have to use some sort of program. But at this point, we're going where we're going, and we'll continue to look for those updates from the state as they advise us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, I think we'll move along. I'm seeing none. So Amanda, thank you very much. And can you just continue to update the board? Would be really appreciative of where we're at in the process, and hopefully the next time you come to the board and we have some final decisions, which probably won't be till next year, I'm assuming, obviously.
Correct.
Trustee Gasson, did you have something? Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry, I was trying to get my kid.
Oh, okay. I saw a finger go up and
No, it's the wrong person, sorry.
okay, so we will conclude this item. And we will move on to our discussion action items. The first item is proficiency-based education. This is the Marzano Research Partnership. And Amanda's still there because she's going to be doing this item as well. So
Great, thank you. So this last school year, we had a partnership with Marzano Research and then their organization to support the standards-based grading and proficiency-based education throughout our school district. And some of the work that they did this previous year with our teachers was that at the beginning of the school year, they worked with our teacher leadership team, which is comprised of 40 teachers across our district at every school site, every content area, and every grade level. And they really established the foundation of proficiency-based education and the ways to use standards-based grading in a system. And so from there, their work really influenced our teachers in being able to use the previously identified essential standards and to develop proficiency scales that will be eventually in the hands of our students and our teachers and our families. And then the next thing that they helped to support with TLT was the facilitating course. And so that leadership training was provided to our TLT members, who are then going out to their school sites and their school teams to be leaders on their campus for proficiency-based education. And this gave them ways of working with adult learners. And then they also provided virtual meetings with our TLT members and our leadership team to prepare for professional development, so that way we could best support our teachers during those times that we had with them. And then the next thing that we had them do was all staff training back in January. So we separated our elementary teachers and our secondary teachers. And we had Jan Haig working with elementary to again give the foundation to everyone about proficiency-based education. We moved into what common assessments would look like. And then at the secondary level, we had Bev Clemens who came in and worked with our teachers also to give a foundation for the proficiency-based education and the way that they are also looking at assessments at the secondary level. So we're looking to continue our partnership with Marzano for the next school year. And I believe you should have attached the contract that they had provided us. And it is for $46,500, which is about $10,000 less than this last school year that we had them working with us. And what we'll be looking to do with them this coming school year, they'll provide 2 days of support again for our onboarding of our TLT members and our administrators to continue to support the proficiency-based education in Novato. They'll also be providing sessions on opening day, hopefully when we come back in August, and they will be able to support all teachers in our system to be able to get some specified training around assessments and reporting back and giving feedback. And then the other thing that we're looking at having them work with us is to support community engagement. So Tammy Heffelbauer has done this work in many other districts, and it's really to build the community's understanding and support around proficiency-based education. And then Tammy Heffelbauer will also be providing the facilitators training that last year's TLT received for our onboarding of our next ones. So this is some of the work that they'll be looking to do in the coming school year. So we are seeking your approval of the attached contract for $46,500 so that we can continue our partnership with Marzano Resources in support of proficiency-based education in Nevada Unified School District.
Can you, I see the funding's coming from the same source, the low performance student block grant. How much more do we have of that grant? Is it a multi-year or how does that work?
Yeah, so the low performing student block grant, they gave us, I don't have the exact number, maybe Amy might have it, but it was about 500,000, I wanna say, and it's to be spent over a 3 years period of time. So currently what we're pulling from that is our TLT work, which is specifically to the Marzano, as well as our West Ed contract for our MTSS. So that's what we used part of that for this school year and what we're looking to use for the next school year. And then we'll be working with the LCAP to continue to support this work because it's been so instrumental to the changes that have been taking place in our school district, on our campuses, and for our students.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I see Ross is joining us. Superintendent Koska, can you hear me? Is he able to get in, or is he there, or he needs to be able to?
Oh, I let him in once. I guess I need to let him in a second time. There must have been some sort of a glitch.
Yeah.
Now he's back.
All right. Any other questions? Trustee Gatson.
So in looking at, I just thought of something since I think yesterday, the online sessions that I attended kind of set me in a freak out zone about like school in the future. And so some of the dates on these services that they're providing, are they something that can be done in like this format and not personally, or are these personalized meetings like the Summer Institute on August 13th and 14th? These are all August and September dates. So I'm just wondering, with the possibility that we may still be under certain restrictions, how I don't know, is it required to, have people in place or in meetings and stuff like that, or how can we foresee that?
Yes, so with our partnership, we have really established a nice connection with them where they've reached out when other opportunities have come available. So I know that they really appreciate the work that Nevada is doing and are in support of helping us move forward. So the dates that are given right now, we wanted to book them in positive hopes that we're coming back because they are highly sought after. But we know that they will be flexible in the event that we have to reschedule due to these current circumstances extending further, or they would be flexible if they needed to find a way to do this virtually, and we would just shift the way in which we deliver the instruction and content to our teachers.
Thank you for asking. That's a good question. Anybody else questions on the Marzano partnership and contract? I don't see any. Is the TLT team, the teacher leadership team, you see that mostly continuing as the same teachers, or do we see a shift in?
Yes, so like I said, we have currently 40 teachers that are on the teacher leadership team, and we sent out an interest survey to them a couple months ago, and pretty much all of them said absolutely want to continue delving into this work. It's too good to stop now. And then we do have interest of others who want to be a part of the team, and we will be onboarding more additional to our platoon.
Well, that's good news. Yeah, thank you. I know we're getting a report from them in our next meeting. I think
next meeting.
Yeah. Okay. And you're probably doing that, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Okay. All right. If there's no more questions, this is an action item to approve the Marzano contract for 2020-21 school year. Would anybody like to make a motion or not? Or
yes, I will move the motion. I think it's a good idea to continue with proficiency education in this particular organization. So I will move the recommendation.
Thank you, Trustee. Now I saw Trustee Gasson. Are you good for the second? Okay. Trustee Gasson is the second. All those in favor? Okay, 7-0. Trustee Millerick is back. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, everyone.
See you later. Okay, the next item is resolution number 28. This is the 2019-2020 reduce and or eliminate the number of classified positions due to lack of work and or lack of funds. And I believe Jonathan is joining us. There he is.
Greetings, trustees. Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. Unfortunately, due to a lack of funds, the district is proposing a resolution and making a recommendation for approval of the following classified layoffs. A paraeducator 0.6875 FTE, instructional assistant 1.5002 FTE total. In addition, due to the opening of our new FANS facility, a change of work demands, and a ratified memorandum of understanding with CSEA, the district is also proposing to eliminate the following position: FANS delivery driver lead and distribution specialist, 0.9375 FTE. It is important to note that the district is committed to finding new positions that are currently vacant or that may become vacant to any impacted employee that may receive a layoff notification. It is also important to note that the position proposed for elimination is vacant and unfilled, with the district committed to adding an additional position of fans delivery driver as outlined in our memorandum of understanding with CSEA. Pursuant to California Education Code and subject to your approval, impacted individuals will be provided a notice of layoff effective 60 days of notice delivery. The district will provide impacted employees our full support in transitioning them to any opportunity they seek moving forward. On behalf of the district, I want to make public, acknowledge, thank, and appreciate the service and leadership these employees have provided within their classification. They have supported our community, provided important service, and contributed to a culture of care, competence, and excellence. As I've said before, employee layoffs are uncomfortable and impacts the lives of many. In the end, we are charged with ensuring the district remain fiscally solvent while operating at peak performance. Reorganization and layoffs provide us the opportunity to achieve these goals. With this, the district is recommending you approve this action item. I can take questions or hear comments at this time. Thank you.
Questions or comments? I mean, these are already the hard decisions that we're having to make, and here they go. I do have a public comment. Superintendent Koska or Ellen is going to be reading that.
I'm ready. This is from Mariah Fisher, president of NFT. I am frustrated to see cuts in an area that directly impacts students, teachers, and the learning environment. This is an example of where teachers call into question our leadership's priorities. At a time where assistants and all hands on deck are so desperately needed, why are these cuts being made? We have a high school special ed teacher who has been waiting all year for an aide. Legally, she should have one. She has been getting the runaround all year about her questions and concerns over trying to meet her students' needs without one, and then we just eliminate 5 of them. While I made a public comment earlier questioning district leadership and their priorities, this is a perfect example where my concern lies. Cuts need to happen at the district office first. This will show that your priority is in the classroom and on what directly impacts the students. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no comment from the board, again, this is an action item. I think Jonathan explained it really, well, so that we understand what the steps we're taking here.
I will move the reduction in position.
Okay, so I have a first by Trustee Millerick. Second. Okay, I see Maria raising her hand. So second by Trustee Aguila. All those in favor? 7-0. Thanks, Jonathan. Moving on, this is Jonathan as well. This is Resolution 29, 2019-2020 Certificated Teacher Appreciation Week. This happens May 4th through the 8th.
Greetings, trustees. Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent Human Resources again. In honor of Certificated Teacher Week from May 4th through May 8th, the district is recommending a resolution to be read and approved to celebrate and honor Nevada Unified School District's certificated employees and their contributions. As we already know, education is not possible without our teachers, whether these teachers are classroom teachers, academic counselors, school nurses, program specialists, speech therapists, deans, school psychologists, literacy coaches, athletic directors, and other certificated staff. These individuals are critical in the development of our students, our community, and the future. Our teachers are deserving of recognition and support each and every day. They work tirelessly, going above and beyond, prioritizing and engaging their students, oftentimes with limited resources. Many of them make personal sacrifices, provide a safe and caring environment for their students, and provide nurture and love when our students need them the most. Even more so now, in our crisis and in our pandemic, in these dark times, our teachers will serve as that beacon of light. They are going to get our students through this somehow, as they have already proven and only know best. They continue to prove that no matter what challenges come our way that are out of our control, they will continue to engage, inspire, and empower. We know the impact a teacher has in our lives. Each and every one of us in this Zoom have that one memorable teacher who supported us, who never gave up on us, and who inspired us to be who we are today. For me, that was my high school counselor, Mr. Kadena. We are all proof of the importance and impact teachers make. We see it ourselves every time we look in the mirror. So today, let us recognize and honor formally our Novato Unified School District's classroom teachers, academic counselors, school nurses, program specialists, athletic directors, literacy coaches, speech therapists, deans, school psychologists, and other certificated staff across our district that provide a culture of care, a culture of competence, and a culture of excellence to our organization. The district recommends approval of the resolution, and we encourage our school communities to celebrate and recognize our teachers during the week of May 4th in honor of Certificated Teacher Week. Thank you.
Well said. Boy, I couldn't do it any better than that. My goodness. And I think we can say that Teacher Appreciation Week is well earned, well deserved, more so than ever in the time that we're in right now. It's unbelievable the work that they're doing and the effort that they're putting in. It's above and beyond. They've made a major adjustment in a short period of time and have really said, we're here to serve our students. And we appreciate our teachers more so than I can ever express. So thank you for all those kind words, Jonathan. Appreciate it very much. Does anybody want to add anything? We'll just, this is Trustee Aguila.
I'll make a motion. If
Okay.
there's somebody.
So we have a first by Trustee Aguila. Second. Trustee Nell is our second. All right, this is all those in favor to approve Resolution 29, Certificated Teacher Appreciation Week, the week of May 4th through the 8th. All those in favor? Okay, 7-0. Thank you. And moving on to, this is our last item. This is two more items. This is 13D, approval of the Hill Education Center reorganization proposal for 2020-21. We have Kessa Early joining us.
Hi, trustees. Jonathan Ferrer and Kessa Early is here as well. I will be presenting the reorganization and sharing my screen with all of you. And Kessa and I will be here to answer any questions you might have in regards to the presentation. So without further ado, hoping you can all see this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it. I can see it.
Fantastic. Great, great. So the district is making a recommendation to reorganize the Hill Education Center effective the 2020-2021 school year. This is a good opportunity to assess where we are at Hill Education Center as it relates to adult education, Marin Oaks, and Nova. So to give you a little context, our current status over at Hill Education Center is we have a full-time 1 FTE principal of alternative programs. We also have a 0.6 coordinator of adult education that also doubles and classifies as a mentor over adult education. And we have a 0.5 FTE academic counselor at Marin Oaks. There have been some transitions and changes as we have been exploring the reorganization of Hill over the last few months. There has been the retirement of that coordinator and mentor over adult ed and a resignation of the 0.5 academic counselor at Marin Oaks. In our research and in our assessment about Hill Education Center, we feel that there are some growth areas that need to be addressed, particularly the innovation that's happening over at adult education to expand the innovation, expand programs, expand offerings. We also would like to see some growth with the Pearson Testing Center. Right now, that's operating for us at a negative financial situation, and we would like that to grow. We also would like to continue and expand our partnership with College of Marin. And also a reorganization allows us some financial savings for a staffing cost. So our proposal to all of you is a reorganization of Hill that allows for 1 FTE high school principal. This would consolidate supervision of all Hill Education Center programs, Marin Oaks, Adult Ed, and Nova. This is similar to adult education centers and alternative centers in other school districts. This is a kind of common structure and organization across districts. We also would like to propose that we have a half high school assistant principal and half academic counselor. So an individual that is credentialed in both to support the high school principal over at Hill Education Center. This potentially can give us a lot of advantages. Obviously, the continuous leadership from Marin Oaks all the way to adult education will allow students to feel comfortable to remain at Hill after Marin Oaks and take part in adult education. We feel that there will be more organizational structure and alignment when we have one principal and one assistant principal / counselor overseeing its entire program. Of course, the increased collaboration with College of Marin and expansion of career technical education, kind of the innovation that I was speaking of, that has been successful at Marin Oaks, we hope to carry on now through adult education. Also enhancing the partnerships with community agencies. Currently that's being done successfully over at Marin Oaks, and we want to see that continue over at adult ed as well. And of course, the annual savings. Our annual savings is projected to be approximately $70,000 a year with this reorganization. With your approval, our next steps will be obviously a recommendation this evening to approve the reorganization of Hill Education Center. That would include us transitioning the principal of alternative programs to a high school principal position, and also means posting and selecting a 0.5 high school assistant principal and 0.5 academic counselor. Kessa Early and Educational Services are also going to do a lot of program evaluation as we make this transition next year to measure its success. With that, trustees, we do make this recommendation to approve the reorganization of Hill Education Center. Kessa and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, board members, questions, speak up or?
Debbie, I have a question.
Okay.
First of all, thank you, Jonathan. And secondly, Kessa, I'd love to hear your just kind of analysis of this and what you think, and is this the right direction and so on.
Yeah, I'm excited about the kind of the expanding my part in the Hill Education Center restructuring. And so what I'm thinking is that a lot of times with my students that need to go to adult education, there's a little bit of a hesitation because it's a new program and they're not familiar with it. But if it's the same leadership, it allows for a smoother transition. So I feel like that will be a really good positive thing for our kiddos. And then the next thing is CTE. We're really big on expanding CTE, and we have a great partnership with College of Marin, and just working with them and allowing our kids at Marin Oaks, and then working with adult education and just offering things like culinary. And I think we would start with the culinary program and then expand from there.
Okay, great. And then Jonathan, thank you, Kessa. Jonathan, is this 0.5 high school assistant principal and the 0.5 academic counselor? Is that one person or two half-time people? It's one person.
Correct. Trustee Cooper, our goal is to hire one person that has both the administrative credential as well as the PPS school counseling credential. There are those folks out there.
They are there.
We get enough interest.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Trustee Miller?
Kessa, I'm thrilled that you're going to be stepping up to the CTE program. There's been lots of work at College of Marin to make that program strong. And the fact that we can now take it and leverage it for the students in Nevada and make sure that they have career choices they might not otherwise have. Thank you very much. I'm just not quite sure why you want so much grief in your life as you're signing up for.
Challenges are good. They're good. Help me grow.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, if there's no other questions, this is approval of this plan moving forward of the restructuring, reorganization.
I'd like to move approval of the restructuring of Hill
Education Center.
Education Center.
Okay, first by Trustee Cooper. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Aguila is a second. All those in favor? 7-0. Kessa, would you mind, since we have you, how is distance learning going with Marin Oaks and Nova? Just a quick, couple of sentences.
It's challenging. It's really hard for our students. Our staff has done a remarkable job of the transition. And what we're doing is to try to really engage our kids is to offer enrichment programs. So we are piloting this starting next week. I can actually send you the courses, and you can kind of zoom in and just see what we're offering. Some of the things are we're partnering with all of the people that we're already helping out. So with music, we're going to have a music class. We're going to have meditation twice a week. We have the culinary is still happening. So we're dropping the food off at the school. The kids get to pick it up. Then they get to make a homemade meal for their families once a week. And so that's been going really great. It's hard to get the kids to plug in when a lot of them are having to work. They're having to take care of their siblings. So we're doing the best we can. And I'm not going to lie, it's definitely a challenge, but I'm really proud of our staff and our students.
Good. Thank you for that. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Trustee Sheila?
Yeah. How much part do you, I just want to ask you about parent participation. Are there any parents, just what's your feedback on parents? And
I think the parents are working hard to support their families. And so we have had some kids have a lot of parental support, and some have parents that are having to work around the clock. And so
right.
It's the same, I think, as when they're at school.
So nothing has changed as far as parents helping out the kids, or I mean, I know that we're talking about older kids and they're very independent.
Yeah, they help us get a hold of the students. So if there's been a couple of days where the kid has not zoomed in, then we contact the parent gets a hold of the student, and then so they help in that way.
Okay.
Lieutenant Costa, did you want to add something, or are you good?
I just wanted to say very fast, I got a copy of the enrichment activities that they're offering over there. And it was so exciting to see all the great stuff they're doing for their kids to keep them connected. It just made me really, really proud of the program.
Great. Thank you. All right. So this is move forward. We already voted. We're all good to go. Thank you, Kessa, for hanging in there and joining us this evening. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks. All right. We have one item left. This is 14H. This is an item pulled off consent. Is Yancey? Yeah, Yancey's joining us. Okay, thanks. Diane, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just pulled it because we've got a lot of things on the consent agenda, and there's some dialogue, sometimes out there in social media about how come people are out doing construction and rock projects and stuff like that. So all I wanted to do is just kind of bring it to the forefront and out of the consent to just say, we fall under essential government functions as according to the Marin Health Office's what is it? SIP.
Shelter in place.
Shelter in place. Thank you. My acronyms today. So it was just for that purpose, just to reiterate that we do have authorization to continue with those construction projects.
Okay. Thank you for highlighting that. Pulling that. Would you like to make a motion if there's no other questions from the board?
Sure. So I move to approve what has it priced? The delegation of authority for this superintendent and/or authorized staff to designate public works projects as essential government functions under the shelter in place.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
All right, so we have first by Trustee Gasson, a second by Trustee Aguila. All those in favor? Trustee Millerick, I'm not seeing you, so I'm assuming you're not there. Oh, he's a yes. Okay. 7-0. He's multitasking. All right. That was a 7-0 vote on that. All right, that concludes our meeting this evening, and our next regular board meeting is May 5th. Elizabeth, thank you for hanging in there. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you can join us on the 5th as well, and some of our other student board members can do so.
Of course, it was good to see everyone again, and I think I have some notes on just things that I kind of took away from the meeting. So I'm sorry I was a little bit quiet this time, but I have a lot to say next meeting. So
no problem. Thank you.
Thank you for staying so long for the whole meeting.
All right, we're gonna sign off. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.